Coming up next on the Filthy Rich Cleaners podcast.
At this point, I'm literally backing away. I'm on, like, he's on this side, craning his neck around. I'm backing away, clearly uncomfortable. And I was like, I'm not interested.
From your first dollar to your first million, welcome to the Filthy Rich Cleaners podcast, presented by ZenMaid. Join your host, Stephanie Pipkin, founder of Serene Clean, as she shares proven tips, tricks, and hard-earned lessons. Whether you're just starting out or ready to scale, get ready to discover how to build your own cleaning empire. Let's roll up our sleeves and dive in.
Hello, my friends. Welcome back to the Filthy Rich Cleaners podcast. I am your host, Stephanie from Serene Clean. And on this podcast today, I'm going to probably get a little ragey, so bear with me. And male owners, please listen to what I'm saying here, because I want you to take a little walk in my shoes and the shoes of all of your female employees, because we're talking about safety today. And last week, and the week before, I had two instances where I myself felt fear. I walk my dog, Lily, my border collie that you guys see every day. And I go for a nice long walk through the neighborhoods. And about 2 weeks ago, this guy stopped, like, driving to leer at me. And he was like, yelling at me and blah, blah, blah. Like, you got social media? And I was like, no, but I have a boyfriend. Go away. But, just trying to shuffle him along. But he was in his car and he cruised away. Whatever. Unfortunately, not unusual, right? Either way, doing the glance behind my back, all of that stuff. Last week, it happened again with the same guy. All right. And he already knows that I am not interested. So that doesn't matter. And, that's something that we often all the time do. We'll be like, I have a partner or whatever. I'm not interested. Multiple ways to say this, because many times these creeps will respect your hypothetical man more than just you being a human being. But I'll try not to go on some type of feminine rage, feminist rant type of thing. We'll see if that happens. So anyway, happened again last week, but this time I was actually pretty afraid, because he drove by me and I didn't even, I was just cruising along, walking, not really paying attention to traffic in the other lane. He stopped in the road when he realized it was me, and he backed up on a main road to get back to me so that he could shout at me. And he was like, "Oh, I'm sorry. You're so beautiful. I just have to tell you that." And I was like, I'm not interested. And at this point, I'm literally backing away. I'm on, he's on this side, craning his neck around. I'm backing away, clearly uncomfortable. And I was like, I'm not interested. And, trying to basically have the biggest bitch face that I could. But clearly he could read in my body language that I was scared, because his exact words were, "You don't have to be afraid of me. I don't bite," with a grin. And in that moment, it just was kind of paralyzing, because you always think about situations like this, or if you've ever thought about what you're going to do in a situation, it's so easy to think you're going to have this perfect reaction or do exactly what you think you should. But then the actual situation comes on, and that fight or flight, that freeze response, your nervous system takes over basically. And I was afraid. And in those situations, yelling at a man is not necessarily is that going to enrage this person, right? And luckily, multiple things were good. It was daytime. There was people in the yard that were kind of witnessing what was going on. And number 3, I had a gun in my pocket because I have concealed carry and exhibit A of Y. All right. So I know for my non-American listeners, that might seem wild to you, or, if you don't agree with that, that's fine. It's my right as American. America. So I carry a gun. And it just reiterated to me, thank goodness I do, because in that situation, that feeling I had of pit in my stomach, what do I do? What is this person going to react if I become aggressive to try to get him away from me? And he took off, and the people in the yard came down and were like, "What was he saying?" And I told them the situation, and that this is now the second time that this has happened with this man, who I've made it clear I'm not interested, right? He does not respect that. And so, oh gosh, I feel emotional. This is weird. I'm getting emotional about this, but it makes me emotional, because that feeling I had takes me right to my cleaners and the feelings that they must feel, and the feelings of all the cleaners who have been in any situation where they've been put in an uncomfortable situation. And if you guys do not know, this is a huge problem in the cleaning industry, specifically, for female cleaners, which the majority of our industry is women. And so to my men who are still listening right now, I know you're like, why is women? And maybe you're not thinking like that. Maybe I'm just projecting, but there's a reason I'm focusing on this. Okay. All of my staff, for the most part, are women. And they are alone in situations, right? They are alone in other people's environments, which is inherently more dangerous than perhaps working at a restaurant where I have been sexually harassed before as a waitress, but it's a totally different environment because there's people all around me, right? In a house alone with somebody, that is a totally different ballgame. You are so much further inherently at risk of if the opportunity is there and that person is of that mindset, they can more easily take advantage of the situation. And I just thought about, what if I had been alone in a house and this was a client who did that, right? And just how amplified my feelings of fear, despite being in a public place on a street in the middle of the day, I felt afraid, rightfully so, how I would feel in that situation with the house. And that has happened to my cleaners. All right. If you haven't listened to my full on safety video on the ZenMaid YouTube channel, we'll link it below. I go into actually, I think several different scenarios where my cleaners have been in very dangerous situations, whether that be from a client or just a situation where they got hurt, dogs, all sorts of reasons that safety, it's not talked about enough and it's not thought about until something bad happens. And that's why I'm talking about this, because I want you guys to be proactive, not reactive, and not wait for something horrific to happen to actually have plans in place and to communicate with your staff about this. I want you guys to know that it is our job as owners to protect our staff members as much as possible. They are putting their safety into your hands. And I don't want you to be dismissive of it. And I also want to give you guys the tools and some guidelines to what we do at Serene Clean to emphasize safety. So I'm going to go over a few of those things just to give you guys examples, as well as check the show notes. We will have a downloadable template that you can edit to your heart's content for your cleaning business that is basically a safety reminder template that we use at Serene Clean, and all of the cleaners have a copy of this, and we go over safety super regularly so that they understand that this is priority and top of mind, because at the end of the day, nothing else matters. No job should ever top your cleaner's safety. So I want you guys to take this seriously, because it could be life or death, frankly. And that sounds really dramatic, but it's not. Look up the sexual assault statistics on female janitors if you need any reiteration on that this is a problem, and this is not me being dramatic. So it's a big problem, and I know that I will see stories in the comments on this of anybody who's experienced something or something that their cleaners have gone through. Again, it could not even be another human. It could be a dog. It could be, biohazard situations that you got to get your cleaners out of there. It could be drugs that people are using. Like it could be heavy drinking that's happening during the cleaning and you show up. There's all sorts of things that can put you in an uncomfortable situation that you shouldn't have to be in to do your job. We're freaking house cleaners, guys. We should not have to be dealing with safety problems. But unfortunately, this is not a fantasy world that we live in. It's the real world. So that's why I'm talking about this. That's why you guys will hear me say stories like this periodically, or if anything ever happens, I want to share that so that it's top of mind, and also to give you guys some parameters as to how to operate around safety. So on the safety sheet that you guys can download, number one is teaching your cleaners to be alert and paying attention to their surroundings. This means not being distracted. Do not let your cleaners have both earbuds in ever. All right. We, of course, let our cleaners listen to music or podcasts. Obviously, they're all listening to this podcast right now, right, my cleaners? It's funny. I did get a message from, hi, Lori. If you're listening to this, I saw your message. I promise I'll respond when I get a second, saying she's listening to the podcast. So that's cool, but also weird for my staff to be listening to this for me. But anyways, I digress. Squirrel. So we do not let them have both earbuds in because they have to be able to hear not only about other people, but what if there's a forklift? What if something falls? What if their dog, whatever? Like there's so many reasons to not be basically taking away one of your senses of hearing whenever possible. And no earbuds in at all when they are going through transitional spaces. So that is going to be places like the facility or home to their car, that is between the office and their car. Basically, anytime you're going from one space to another, that is the most likely place for your cleaners to be at risk because they probably got a handful of supplies. They're trying to find their car keys. They're screwing with their phone and they're listening to music, right? They're literally like this blind duck that's just waddling to their car, right? So anytime you see your cleaners do that, correct it on the spot. Get on to them because it's a nasty habit and it's one that is following them not only at work, but they're doing it in their personal lives, right? When they're getting groceries, they're being distracted, all right? That is when people get attacked. So teaching them and correcting that you do not want that to be happening. We also, they must, before they update all of their ZenMaid notes, they need to get into their car first, which brings us into number 2. Lock yourself in whenever possible. So we want our cleaners to be locking themselves into whatever space that they're cleaning whenever humanly possible. Sometimes it's not possible, but if it is, lock the door after cleaning, especially when we're talking about vacation rentals, vacant home cleanings, really any home like at all. Lock yourself in. In businesses, a lot of times we can do that too. And then, of course, when you get in your car, immediately hitting that lock button. Again, not just going to the phone, hitting the vape, all of the things our cleaners are doing, right? Is that just my cleaners? Or every person in their 20s, 30s, and 40s nowadays, it seems like. I actually don't vape. I've never vaped, nor have I ever smoked a cigarette because I have a very addictive personality. So I'd imagine that all those candy flavors of the vapes, I'm sold. I can't even try it once, not even once. So if I got some heavy vapors listening, go ahead, raise your hand. You can admit it. So locking themselves in whenever they possibly can. Number 3 is not answering the door at appointments. It is not our cleaner's job to let people in that we are not notified that they're going to be arriving. So say an electrician is supposed to show up and the client did not notify us of that. That could be anybody saying they're an electrician, right? Like, has anybody seen, I don't know, The Sopranos? You can say you're anybody and just burst into the door. So do not open the door unless you have been told specifically, this person is showing up at this time and they're doing this. Even so, we just prefer no service providers in the house when we are cleaning, right? Because just because they're from an electric company or they're a plumber or whatever else they are doesn't mean, again, that's not necessarily a risky person. The ideal is to just limit the amount of people that our cleaners are exposed to as much as possible in this very vulnerable position, which is cleaning. Think about cleaning a tub. Think about all of the different positions that we are in where your back is turned. You're just not ready for somebody to take you by surprise, if you will. And I know that this, again, may sound like psychotic, like Stephanie, are you just on red alert to be attacked at all times? No, this is called situational awareness, right? And so I would hazard a guess that anybody who has been attacked in these situations would have wished they had had more time to react. So that's what this is about, being aware of your surroundings and mitigating risk as much as possible. Accepting packages as well. We don't expect our cleaners, or we do not want them to go meet the driver or anything. If say UPS drops off a box, we are going to wait. We will pull that in. If it's in the rain or something, but even then, we just don't like to touch it because what if it goes missing? There's some liability in there as well. And then finally, the most important thing is listening to your intuition and your gut instinct. I think so many times as women, we have just shoved that gut instinct far, far down so we don't seem like a bitch, right? So we don't seem mean because being a bitch Well, and getting older apparently is like the worst thing in society as a woman, like the worst sin that we could commit, right? Gosh, I said I wasn't going to go on a feminist rant. I'm sorry, guys. I can't help myself. But honestly, you need to listen to your gut and be firm. That guy who did that to me last week, like I felt like I was being, pretty not nice, and it still wasn't working. Right? So when we are nice or we are, trying to be polite because, we're at work or anything like that, that means that that person is going to be interpreting your behavior through a certain lens. And so I literally teach, for my cleaners, it's whatever means necessary. You need to get out of that situation. You are not going to get in trouble. Whatever you need to say, whatever you need to do, you get out of there because your safety is number one. And if they are feeling any sort of way, just leave. Just get out of there, make your excuses, do whatever you need to do. So I want you guys to definitely use that template, print it off, give it to your cleaners, and talk about this. Every time situations come up, talk about it. For us, orientation is like, obviously orientation is the first day of their employment. We literally talk about safety here. We provide our cleaners with pepper gel and an alarm if they want it. We'll also link to those as well. So if they want to have pepper gel, Serene Clean will provide it. If they want to go get their concealed carry, I will pay for it, because whatever I can do to make women feel empowered of their safety, I am going to do. Obviously, I have male staff as well. I am talking statistically what is most likely, right? A cleaner could get attacked by a giant dog, right? Like you might need some pepper gel for that too. So whatever it is that they need to do to feel comfortable, I am going to help facilitate that. And yeah, so there is that. The second part of this, and something that I want to talk about of how to handle this, like tactically, steps to handle this, is of course the ZenMaid SOS button. So last August, I went and saw ZenMaid in Amsterdam. We had a really fun trip. We had a big retreat, and I offhandedly, just like I did at the beginning of this podcast, started telling horror stories. I started talking about like, oh, this happened. Like nobody ever like talks about this, but this is a huge problem. Literally within a couple days, they surprised me with the prototype of the SOS button, which now, like few short months later, they have fully released to every single user of ZenMaid. So what the SOS button does is it silently alerts everybody who is assigned to the appointment, as well as the management, that that person has pressed the SOS. They need help. They need immediate assistance, right? And nobody else is going to know. It's not like some loud alarm or something. So obviously that would put them in danger, even more so potentially. So it is a silent alert to let us know something is going wrong. And we need to get a hold of that cleaner. They need our help as soon as possible. And of course, if, they just, broke their leg or something, then that would be a call 911 situation. But this is a perfect example of like, sometimes there is subtlety to uncomfortableness. All right. Last year I had cleaners being propositioned very directly. Will you join me in the bedroom? Right? Not exactly subtle what that man was trying to do. But there are other situations where it's kind of insidious, that discomfort. It's comments on our appearance. It's things like that. And I literally told my cleaners, like, if a client compliments you, like your appearance, that's reason enough. You're a professional service provider. There's no reason that they should be telling you that you're pretty. And any men that are listening, this isn't about like women can't take a compliment. If we're at our job and I am home and alone in your home and you're complimenting me, then that is you testing the water. And if I accept that, all of a sudden the line's here. You keep pressing, right? So if we don't say, no, and slap that damn wrist, all of a sudden you think it's okay. So again, I'm not saying you, my listener, not you. You would never do this, but some men do this, okay? And I've experienced it myself. Again, waitressing, experienced a lot of stuff. People were crazy. And I was a minor too, so even worse. Oh, I need a Zevia. I'm getting all sweaty and heated. So cleaner presses that, you get the alert, and then what? What do you do? All right, and this is what I want to talk to you about. So if a cleaner at Serene Clean presses that, the first thing to consider is another cleaner at the appointment, because at that point, the other cleaner also got the alert that their coworker something's wrong. Because for us, our cleaners are always cleaning in different spaces of the home. So you need to direct your cleaners that if they are on a job and their coworker hit that, they need to go find them. They need to go seek them out and figure out what's happening. Because at the end of the day, they're the fastest, they are on site. Or if they are driving, that is another scenario where we don't necessarily want them to walk into a dangerous situation. We want that other cleaner to be calling us so we can try to figure out what's going on. So keep that in mind is the other cleaners on the job at the job, or are they commuting to it because they're all meeting? So a couple different considerations to keep in mind, that if you're already at the job, go find your coworker. If you're not at the job, we don't know what the situation is. We don't want our other cleaner walking in to a potentially dangerous situation. Obviously, that comes with pros and cons, because if their coworker needs help, okay, but what if the guy has them at gunpoint or something crazy like that? We don't know what the situation is, so I'd rather not add a potential another vulnerable person to the situation. And now we got two cleaners in danger, right? So we may say, hey, they just broke their ankle, get there, because we figured it out, but we want them to not go there yet. The next part is very important. We don't know if your cleaner can speak freely or not, because we don't know what the situation is. So it's very important that you reach out to your cleaner in a neutral way that does not hint that something is amiss. We are going to first try to call our cleaner. We are then going to text, wait 5 to 10 minutes. Well, we're going to call several times. I would call a couple times. Then text at the same time, give them some time to call, and then immediately we're going to authorities. Because if they press that and then all of a sudden they can't answer the phone, they were just on their phone, something is horribly wrong. So that's how I would rather be on the side of caution, because if they're pressing this is some type of emergency or they're feeling uncomfortable. So ideally, they are able to pick up your call, and you're going to say something along the lines of, hey, we need to reschedule or rearrange the schedule, and we have to pull you from this job. Please pack up and get ready to leave. We'll explain it to the client, because we don't know, because I don't know if you've ever heard somebody talking on the phone, you can hear what the other person is saying, right? So if that person is in close quarters to them, then again, we need to be very careful. So the cleaner, if they're unable to speak freely, will say, okay, thank you. I'll let the client know. That means that somebody is around them. If they can speak freely, they're going to speak freely. So just direct them to have that kind of dialogue back and forth. If they say that, then we know that they are not safe. They are not in a place that they can speak freely, right? So the goal is to get them out of there as quickly as possible. So I would say, great, can you just stay on the phone with me while you walk out to your car or whatever it is, however they traveled there. So that means, again, they can't speak freely. They can say to that person, hey, my boss is on the phone. They need to change my schedule. I'm going to go take this call. It's my boss, right? So that gets them out of the situation. So hopefully, one, it solves two problems. It gets them away from the danger if they can talk, or if they can't talk. And two, it gets them to a place that they can hopefully talk, which is their car. And then they can let us know what happened or what is happening. If they can speak freely, they're going to tell you, right? Hey, the customer's son is here and he's making these comments. He's in his bedroom right now. At that point, we do not wait to contact anybody. The cleaner leaves. The whole goal for us, get the cleaner out first. We can explain anything or communicate with the client later. All right. I don't care about that part at all. I care about my cleaner safety. So getting them out first, we can handle everything else later, even if they have to leave supplies, right? Depending on how the volatility of the situation. So the biggest part for you guys is to establish what is that kind of code language and code communication look like for you. So I would suggest teaching all of your staff, we are going to call you. If you can pick up, we're going to say, hey, I need to rearrange your schedule. Can you start packing up? And they say yes, and they start packing up. Then you keep them on the phone. If they can speak freely, that is the time to do it, right? So we just don't want to alert anybody who is in hearing distance, right? Obviously, if another cleaner is at the job, we want to get a contact with them as well. You're also sending a text of the same because you don't know who's able to see their phone or anything like that, with the goal of them calling you back. But again, don't let too much time pass. 5 minutes. If you don't hear back from them, okay, they just hit that button. They had access to their phone to do that. I don't care. Go call the cops, welfare check, like immediately. That is the chain of events that we are going to be taking place in Serene Clean if somebody presses the SOS button. So I want you guys to come up with a plan for this. We will have an article on the ZenMaid magazine release that kind of lays this out for you guys as well. So hopefully if that's ready, we can link it below in the episode. So I love the SOS button. I hope I never have to have use for it, frankly. I really do. But over the past 6 years of business, I've had multiple instances of this would have been very useful. It would have been great for our cleaners to be able to have that silent alert, even if, they press it and then they can get out of the situation and they immediately do so. At the end of the day, first and foremost, we want our cleaners to get out of the situation. They don't need to tell us. But if they swipe that, they get out, they call us back to let us know while they're hightailing it out of there, just so that we are aware something is going on and we are not waiting till after the fact, right? So if there needs to be back and forth, whatever. Guys, it's probably going to be a little chaotic if this happens, because all of a sudden everybody's going to drop everything and try to get a hold of that cleaner. So just know that. Please talk to you. If you're a ZenMaid user and you have not talked to your cleaners through this or came up with a game plan, this is your trigger to do so. This episode, please take some time, go read the article, download the staff safety reminders sheet, and get these things in place. It will not take you long. And if you need to call a staff meeting or you need to record a video and send it to your staff because you can't get a meeting together anytime soon, this needs to be taken care of immediately, because you just don't know. And they may have seen that button and just don't understand or don't know what's going to happen if they press it and are worried that is an alarm going to go off? Are you going to start calling and being like, what's wrong? What's wrong? And then, maybe they're not apt to press it. So you need to explain what's going to happen and have a process in place to follow, because when this happens, just as I described in the beginning of the episode, you don't know how you're going to react until you get to a situation unless you have laid out a plan, right? So you need to have basically a script in place of what are you going to say, so that, we always fall to, our lowest, abilities, I find in moments of stress. It's just like for a we all say we're going to diet and exercise, when I have the time, when I'm going to take care of myself when I have the time, et cetera, et cetera. But it's like, well, no, you need to be figuring this out when you don't have the time, so that when life is how it usually is, which is not perfect, you actually still are able to maintain this. Because if you're only doing things when situations are perfect, well, you're most likely never going to be doing it, because nothing's ever perfect ever. So we need to come up with situational plans. And that kind of applies for literally every aspect of our business, right? We need to have a plan in place for when any fire happens. Cleaner calls out, client cancels, client needs rearranged, you get a complaint. Okay, those are the things that could happen in our business that causes you some havoc, right? So what's the plan? What are we going to do in those situations? Maybe keep listening to the Filthy Rich Cleaners podcast and we'll talk about it. But you have to have a plan, guys. So that is why I'm talking about this. If you want to hear all of those horror stories, go listen to the original YouTube video that I made, not the podcast episode. But I felt the desire to share about this again, because I just had that situation and it just made me so hyper aware and feeling that fear. It was so visceral for me and reminding me that, gosh, it can, we're putting our staff at risk. Inherently this job can be risky, and not that every job doesn't have danger, but is it danger from another human being? We're not policemen and policewomen, right? We are not, Secret Service or FBI agents here. We're house cleaners and business cleaners. So I just don't think that we should have to be considering this, but we do. So that's why I'm talking about it. I will always be a champion for safety, because my staff mean everything to me. Their safety means everything. And gosh, I'm just so emotional about this, because some of the worst situations that have happened, like it really shook me to my core, and nobody got hurt even. But all I could think of is what if he didn't back off? Cause I remember I had a cleaner cornered one time, and this guy was just being awful. And I just thought, like, what if he had attacked her? And there's just so many things. And so, I know you may think it's extreme to talk about like having a weapon or having a knife or pepper spray or anything like this, but these things happen, guys. And so all I see it is making it an equalizer and empowering our staff, and also letting them know fully and 100%, I have their back. I want you to have your staff's back. And I know you do, but do they know? Do they know that they're not going to get in trouble? Do they know that if they're aggressive and tell that guy to back off, or they drop everything and run out of a cleaning to get out of there, do they know that they're not going to get in trouble? Have you explicitly said that? If not, today's the day to say it. Okay. So I know this was a heavier one, guys. I know I got a little heated, but it's just so important. And I care so much about this. And I know you guys too. So the guys do too. So there's safety. All right, I'm going to calm down. Maybe I'll record another episode about something more lighthearted to cleanse my palate. But all right, guys, please go take care of these things. The resources are linked down below. Hit that subscribe. Do you have a story you want to share? Go ahead, share it in the comments. I'd love to hear it. And I will see you on the next episode of Filthy Rich Cleaners. Bye, guys.